Hello, everybody. My name is Colin McEvers. Welcome back. We have a wonderful show for you today. We're going to be talking about a lot of drama going on with the Salisbury City Council. There's been a new person nominated to fill a seat that has been left bare and empty by the former council president, Deshaun Doughty. So we're going to be talking about that. Her name is Melissa Holland. You probably don't know who she is, and that's exactly one of the main issues we're going to be discussing. So we have some wonderful people on the show today. We have Michael Lankford and Tyler Jones. So let's just start off. Let's throw it out there. Who is Melissa Holland? Who is this person? Does anybody know?
Somebody willing to step up for the District 2 City Council seat, and that's about as far as I can go right now.
Looking into what they spoke to was that she has experience in local government. Apparently, I believe that she worked as a administrative assistant type of position in the county. So there's a person who wasn't elected, isn't involved in the community per se, but has been involved in local government in a minor role. That's my fairest way I think I can put it.
Okay.
I see. Yeah, I have never heard of her before in my life. I know that there were some very qualified people who did put their names into the slot and their names in the hat, and they were not selected. Particularly one of the most popular people who's been on our show many times in the past, Jermichael Mitchell, and he actually did a live stream addressing the situation. Why do you guys think that he was not the one selected to be the person to fill that seat? What is the reason? Do you guys have any thoughts or ideas as to why this wasn't the case?
Sadly, it's not just one reason. There's a power structure at play, which I think is the biggest issue if we really take a good look at it. And then when you talk about Jermichael, you also have to talk about Natalie, who was disqualified before she even got the paperwork through. But I'll let you.
Yeah, I was going to say there's definitely I think the thing that's concerning to me about the Melissa Holland thing is her lack of visibility, considering that there are other. So the other candidates that we know, Melissa Holland, we know Sean Jester, who used to work for Andy Harris.
Yeah, I worked with him actually. I worked with him in the past.
Wayne King, who's run before and lost his election running against Deshaun.
Yeah.
And then we have Jermichael Mitchell, and then we have Natalie St. Fard.
Mm-hmm.
So we have all those other people I'd heard of, regardless of I don't have a relationship with some of them, but I'm aware of them as players on the board. Melissa Holland is the only person that I had not heard of prior, and that was concerning to me. And speaking to the power structure, it just seemed like a move to consolidate. A lot of times, what I've noticed is that there are people being given appointments who lack prior experience. So it's just completely hypocritical, the idea that Jermichael lacks a certain type of experience, and then yet this woman who is nobody even knows, let alone lacks the experience, is then given an appointment. I think that's the part that feels unfair. Same thing with Natalie, an involved community member that I don't have any relationship with her, but I know of her and her work before meeting her. And again, Melissa Holland, no idea.
Natalie, is she? So the people that were running, Natalie, for instance, was she a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent? What was her party affiliate? Did she have a party affiliation?
Well, the city elections are nonpartisan, so then it ends up being a thing where people kind of know people's affiliations in general. But again, I don't know Natalie to be able to actually properly speak to it. I mean, I know the issues. I know she's invested in the community, which.
Agreed. I can't really answer that question either. I know Natalie's work, and I think that's why it's easy to advocate for her, especially in within District 2. But I don't know her party affiliation.
Yeah, I definitely know that there's partisan bias in all these cases, even in nonpartisan councils, elections, things like that. So I was just curious because, I'm not sure about this Melissa. She may also be nonpartisan, but I definitely know that Michelle Gregory, for instance, and Angela Blake are definitely very much in the Democratic scene. I know Michelle Gregory was trying to run as the county executive only a couple weeks ago before she dropped out, which, who knows why, but, definitely a bent. I think the only Republican on the council currently is, what's her name? Sharon DeShields. So, but I also know that Jermichael used to be, pretty heavy in the Democratic Party before. He's an independent now. too, right? Or unaffiliated? Is he still a Democrat? Is he still a Democrat?
Right.
He's still
He's still a Democrat.
That is part of the issue, right? So it goes deeper than party affiliation because Jermichael, one of the reasons I believe, not that I can speak for his personal motivations, but one of the arguments I heard after the 2023 mayoral election of disqualification was, when he pointed out rightfully that the Democrats, the people that he's affiliated with as far as a party registration, did not back him. They were like, well, you didn't take the steps, you didn't go through the process. So since then, he has joined the Democratic Central Committee. He has done those steps. So now we're at another impasse in which he has an opportunity to serve and represent, in what would be an elected position, even if this is an appointment. It's like, and he's been denied.
And
once again.
Excuse me. I
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, traditionally, when you look at when these vacancies are put forth, they're filled by the Central Committee. So you think about Megan Oughton a couple years ago, leads us up to Deshaun Dowdy, which seems like it would have been a shoo-in for Jermichael Mitchell.
Angela Blake was appointed February 2019.
Man, forgive me. Thank you.
I can say that. So yeah, we see a pattern of people who lack prior experience of representation, then being given appointments and then serving a deliberative agenda, which is, like the issue that I have, which is I constantly say this, conflating business interest with the public interest, private interest with the public interest is wrong. You know what I mean? We don't want a game that's rigged towards one. I'm a person who believes in private enterprise within its realm and scope, but there is a public sphere in which there's a greater, concern, regulation is needed, in certain industries outside of a private interest,
Yeah, what I remember about Jake Day, who was the former mayor of Salisbury, who, I know you guys are familiar with Jake the Snake Day. I know that he was very much in the pockets of the businesses, developers, things of that sort. And of course, now he's the housing secretary for Maryland. And I know that Deshaun Dowdy was also very much allied with the former mayor, Jake Day. So of course there is business interest there. There's corporate interest. The developers want to make sure that they have power in the city, that they can make more money off the backs of the people of Salisbury. And so what I've always known about Jermichael is that he hasn't always stepped into line with other people who are interested solely in corporate interests. And I see a lot of that on the city council. People talk about like wanting to build affordable housing and they want to benefit the community in all these wonderful ways, but what is it really? I think it's really just to benefit these builders, these companies that do not have the best interests. And they're not even from Maryland, by the way. I don't even think these builders, most of them are from Maryland. I think they're from out of state. So they're trying to set up shop in places like Salisbury that they have no interest in. And maybe this lady, Melissa, I'm just speculating here, maybe she's more viable. Maybe she's someone who can be more effectively puppeteered. That's just my opinion, because I can't see any other reason why Jermichael wouldn't really be, selected. I mean, as opposed to like the cultural thing of them wanting to have like an all-woman council or whatever and tout that as a virtue signal. But other than that, which is more minor, I think the corporate interest might be in play a little bit more in this particular case.
I know you have a prepared response. But before we do that, Colin, can you give people context? Because I see a lot of stuff going on social media where they're saying, hey, these people are in the developer pocket. This is how it ties to Jake Day. And a lot of people don't understand why that's even being mentioned. So can you just give a little bit of backup information? And then, Michael, I know you're ready to go.
Yeah. I think that's wise. Yeah, because, to paint the picture.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know that there's been this lawsuit ongoing. I don't know if it's still ongoing now, but it was between Mayor Randy Taylor and some other builders because they wanted to come in and basically, set up shop and build some, big units and buildings and things of that sort in downtown Salisbury for cheap prices. Like $1 land deals, things like this that were very beneficial for these companies, for these people. And, Randy Taylor, our current mayor, stepped in and said, well, this isn't going to happen. We don't want this to be the case. And there was a giant lawsuit. They said, well, Jake Day already kind of signed off on it. And so, and also the current city council, Deshaun Dowdy included, who's no longer in there, they all went against Randy Taylor and said, well, we need to have this in. We need more business, more development, more tax revenue, all these things. And so there definitely is some shared interest there from what I understand. I'm sure you probably know a little bit more, though, about it.
So I feel like I think one of the issues is that, like, if we're going to let the private sector, and business do its thing, then actually have that open to everyone, right? And I think that is my issue, is that the people who are getting these land deals, when Mentis Capital Partners, who built the Ross, all right, or Gillis Gilkerson, who's the proposed Salisbury Town Center LLC, or Green Street Housing with their proposed thing on the lot across from Mad Hatter and Purdue. All of these developments, not necessarily against them being able to do it, but I'm not for them using public money. I'm not for them put it, again, as you put it, on the backs of the citizens. So a lot of times they're waiving connect fees, which then leads to higher utility rates for like the citizens all across the board, because those connect fees actually go into the enterprise fund that funds, like when they need to change like a filtration system for the water sewer system, those things cost like $20,000 to $50,000 per one, and then they have to get multiple sometime at the same time. And it's like, so we have been running dry because we've been giving away stuff to developers that normally that's how we would pay as a municipality for these public health and safety concerns. So it's like, it's really it's just so unethical, It's wild to watch, like, the quality for everyone, regardless of political affiliation. And that's when it becomes, well, there are plenty of like good Democrats doing the work, like Jermichael, and there, or April Jackson. There are plenty of people involved in the community, but who is this person? And one of the things that was wild to me is her property is actually owned by Gilkerson Properties LLC. As in Gillis Gilkerson, right? As in Joey Gilkerson as her landlord. And it's like, those are the same people who want to. So if we start seeing her fall in lockstep, and this is the part where it'll be very interesting to see what the restructuring later today happens with the council, because you have Michelle Gregory, Angela Blake, and Melissa Holland has a chance to show us who she is right out the bat. And my prediction is that they will fall in lockstep, and they will go right back, and they'll present this as though this is fair business, right? And that they, what I call like the corporatist agenda, right, on the Democratic ticket, rather than the people's interest at heart, right, which is what they always profess, and then, but in reality, they're like, oh, well, this business friendliness is smart and stuff, but it's like, this isn't open to every community member. They don't all have this chance to get these things waived. He did open a program that did Horizons that was open to many different people. So some of the things were accessible, but a lot of like the state funds that come down only go to a handful of people. And how those people develop those relationships to get that money, and who's excluded, who's not in the room, that's the elephant in the room.
And they always just talk about strategic planning. They will say, oh, well, we've been working on this for years. Why weren't you involved years ago? This is our strategic plan. What you just brought up, because I've heard you say that many times in the public comments. And actually, you share a lot of your stuff. If you don't know, follow Michael Lankford. You'll see all of these comments. But once you see that, was that always a part of the strategic plan? Like, the way that they're going about doing it, is that part of the strategic plan? Are they being truthful with us there?
I think this is the part where if you watch the news, by the time you find out about the thing on TV, it's too late. You already missed your chance to affect the change. And what you're speaking to, I see that all the time in government, where people are kind of aware after the fact, after the fix is in, so to speak, right? And it's presented, oh, well, this is just quid pro quo. This is just standard procedure. This is just, this is normal. You're crazy if you think this isn't normal. And it's like, so it's normal that we all don't get a say. And it's like, okay, so you guys are admitting that. And like, can we change that? And I think that is the conversation that this brings up about elections. How elections and appointments are done. I personally feel like over 2 years before the next election, elected person for that district will be serving. Well, 2 years of somebody appointed, rather than, we could have a special election for one district in the city. You could absolutely set up within like a month, like that. It's not, other places do that. We might have it structured currently that way, but it doesn't really make sense. And if people feel that way, I don't know why we're pretending like we can't. I understand we want to follow a process and be fair, but a lot of times, again, to your point, Tyler, it just feels like the fix is in at that point, and then we're just told, well, it's not me, it's the system. It's just this bureaucratic response, right? So nobody has any accountability. There goes your transparency, there goes your accountability, there goes any responsibility from public officials.
And I bet a lot of money that if we did have a special election, that this Melissa Holland lady, who no one knows about, and this is something that's been brought up in the community a lot on Facebook, on public forums, all these things. It'll probably be talked about a lot during the city council meeting tonight that's going to go on. No one knows her. And someone like Jared Michael or any of these other candidates who are known in the community, who are more well-liked, who are actually have done things for the community, who've been involved for like a decade or more, they would probably win. And sure, maybe we should be giving the ability to make it more efficient to the council to elect them, but at least listen to what the public is telling you, as opposed to getting in some unknown bureaucrat. But at the end of the day, it is for their interest. I do believe that it is definitely I don't know if I'd go as far to say it's corruption, but I mean, frankly, if there's a vested interest between the public officials and these companies, these builders, and the citizens are not benefiting because, again, we also have a giant parking crisis too, and they're not going to help with that at all. So we're giving away free land so that they can build their buildings and their things like that, and the people don't benefit. So I would deem it as a kind of corruption in a way. And no one is listening to what the people actually want in Salisbury.
To echo that sentiment, do you live in District 2?
I don't actually, no.
I do not, you do not. But hypothetically, we're on the city council right now. We get to decide who represents District 2, not living within the district. Now, how does that make sense? How is that fair? To your point.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think, I'll hold out final judgment on Melissa Holland until I see her voting record. That's what I'm judging everybody by, is their performance within the role. But, I'm very skeptical. It'll be interesting. And like I said, I'm totally willing to call out that if Michelle, Angela, and Melissa, who are the two people that fought for her to be there, if they end up working lockstep the way they did with Deshaun, it'll show us all their agenda and who they are, in this community, because more people are paying attention. I think that's the important thing, whether or not, in local politics, that are supposed to be nonpartisan. I think people being able to communicate, and be able to share information, this is going to bring awareness to it. That's what we need.
Definitely. And I think that this decision has been made in large part due to the interest of the builders and things of that sort, but a little bit more controversial topic. One of the things that Joe Michael mentioned in his live stream is that one of the reasons that this decision was made, and again, Michelle Gregory and Angela Blake are two, middle-aged / older white women, that it could have been a racist decision made because, again, Melissa, whatever her last, I keep forgetting because I don't know who she is, as many people don't, but that it was a racist decision because, again, this Melissa lady is also a middle-aged to older white woman as well. What do you guys think about that? Do we think that Angela Blake and Michelle Gregory might have some racial bias?
If I understood his live correctly, I think he was speaking more towards systemic racism and how people in power uphold those systems of racism. Yeah. And the takeaway from that was people immediately went to, oh man, these people are racist, without understanding exactly the direction he was going in. So I think that people also need to understand that a lot of us have personal relationships with those two council representatives. Your experience does not invalidate Jermichael's experience. And then you also have to understand the power dynamic in the room. Me going to talk to those individuals, we're going to have a completely different outcome than somebody of Jermichael's status would have. So I think for a lot of people, when we talk on that topic, you need to sit back and wait for more details to come out before just jumping down the rabbit hole and creating something that's you don't necessarily comprehend yet. But
yeah, I think the aspect of discrimination at work, again, the systematic aspect of the racism, I think is what he spoke to. They are in those actions. I think he was calling their actions in that moment racist, right? I think that this is a discriminatory practice that is excluding a black person from a position of power, somebody who is qualified for someone who's less qualified, which I totally agree with. So in that way, I believe that was really echoing Tyler's thing, the deeper aspect of it, people hear like so and so is racist, and there's an image conjured that's maybe a little bit different than like the deeper level of like what that actually looks like. It doesn't mean that that person isn't going to be willing to shake hands with a person of color. It means that this person is excluding unfairly and upholding the established power structure to their benefit and to the exclusion of other people that have historically been excluded.
Well, if I may, on an individual level, I do think there is some bias, and I don't even know if it's totally racial, but I did agree with the point that he made, that Michelle Gregory and Angela Blake probably aren't going to be going to these black communities, really. They don't really care about them. They only care about their own power. And they might virtue signal, they might be woke, they might say, oh, I care about the black community, I care about the gays, I care about all this. I don't really think they do, personally. I think all they want to do is virtue signal, and I think that's one of the problems with the Democratic Party in general. And Angela Blake and Michelle Gregory are both Democrats, and they're both woke Democrats. Now, there are Democrats that I like, old school Democrats, people who care about, populism, about the people, fighting corporations. But that's not the current Democratic Party, and I think that's very visible with how the city council is going, how the state government is in a large way. There's all this collusion between public officials who are Democrats and these large corporations, whether it be the builders, whether it be, big pharmaceutical corporations, all these things. And Michelle Gregory and Angela Blake, specifically Michelle, are particularly emblematic of that. In regards to bias, I think if Jermichael were if he were like a black guy that were effeminate and docile, someone like Deshaun Doughty, personally, I think that, honestly. I think he's kind of effeminate. I think they would pick him because he's also viable. I mean, he's someone that will fall into lockstep. He's someone that can be controlled by Michelle and Angela, by the matriarchy that exists on the city council. And so I don't think it's necessarily a race thing, because I think for instance, if he were like Deshaun Doughty, I think that it'd be a great little thing. They'd be like, oh, look, we picked another black person. Woohoo. Look how woke we are. Look how accepting we are. But I think it's more so actually something regarding sex. And I don't think they really like masculinity very much. They want to have like an all-woman council, whatever. I don't think they like Jermichael's masculinity, frankly, or his ability to stand up to people and say, this is how it is, this is how it's going to be. And that's something we might disagree with. I think the Democratic Party in general is very anti-man, or anti-masculinity, rather. They like men that are effeminate, but I don't think they like actually masculine men. So that's my opinion, but I think there are multiple different factors. And, I think it's mostly corruption and business interests, but I think that's also a big thing too, as well.
I think people thinking for themselves is a problem. Again,
oh yeah,
that
definitely.
power structure,
I agree, for sure.
I think that narrowing. That if you don't fit into this, tunnel of pre-approved ways in which you can help, then they'll try to paint it as problematic. And when you're not just going to fall lockstep in with other people, when you think for yourself, when you consider what the other side says, that doesn't. For people who are so insecure that they can't listen to people who disagree with them, that becomes a problem. Jermichael's just a more qualified, more secure person.
He's independent-minded. He's not one of the sheep. I mean, he's not, definitely.
Yeah.
I can agree with several of the points, but I would kind of push back when I say it's the entire party, because once again, he is a member of the Wycomico Democratic Central Committee. And I think it is very popular for people to push back against Michelle and Angela. Not your entire point. I'm only focusing on certain little aspects.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I love some disagreement here, and
just little aspects.
We have some differences in opinion.
Even with that, when you have and you're saying Angela Michelle, who do you see from the county council in your community? Like, even if you live in the county, who was actually in your community in the county?
I definitely see James Wynn a lot, for instance. I see him quite a bit.
I've heard that a lot too.
I was down at I think he's a great guy too. He's very involved, I'd say. Who else? I saw John Cannon at the parade a couple.
That's the instance that we're talking about.
But
that's what
I don't know. I haven't really seen many of them. Most of them are resigning though. Most of them aren't running again. They're all going away. So except.
And we don't
James,
mean it to
criticize.
We're not saying it to indict them. He's just pointing out that a lot of these people are not.
In the community, I'm personally not a big John Cannon fan. Like, he wants to. Like I had this little petition going on for term limits. He didn't like term limits, so I don't really like John Cannon, frankly. But James Wynn is a cool guy. I don't think any of the other people are really running though. But yeah, I know Angela Blake and Michelle. They want to retain their power for sure.
Agreed. But I think that was for everybody to be on notice, not just to pick on those two individuals. So if we're looking at this holistically, that's a problem within the city and the county. So, like, I like some of the points that you made, though. I don't even disagree with all of it.
Yeah.
But I don't think we can be biased in those specific instances.
Yeah, I'm more so picking on them because they're like the ones that were behind really the rejection of a member of the community who actually is competent and does a lot. So like, I'm really just addressing them, and I have a lot of criticism for them. I don't like them at all, and I'm sure you guys don't either. But I'm specifically talking about them because they led the charge on making sure that Joe Michael was totally cast aside and thrown out. Even though, again, like you said, he is in the Democratic Central Committee. Why are people like Joe Michael being tossed aside by members who are more ingrained in the Democratic establishment? And that's what I was talking about. Just generally, I think there has been this negative trend in the Democrat Party that I don't like at all. So, I mean, not all Democrats, but the ones in power, the establishment, I don't like it. So.
No, I can see that.
Yeah, I can understand that perspective.
I can absolutely see that.
Anyways, thank you all for sharing your opinions. I think this was a great segment. I really appreciate you guys being here. It's great to chat, talk about things. Anyhow, thank you all for watching this again. The views expressed on this episode are that of Bridging the Gap and Elephant in the Room and all these shows, not that of Pac 14. So again, thank you for watching and have a great day.